Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, has been saying that he is ready for the next first big party title. So it's been a while since Xbox has had one of its big first party titles, and by the end of 2022, 5 games will have been published by Xbox Game Studios this year, but we're lacking, aren't we? We want a few more. So that on the 2023 lineup is looking far stronger for Xbox, and that the pandemic caused a little bit of a slowdown for the Xbox first party trials, then it's going to get a little bit more up in the mix in this next bit, because COVID's gone. You know what I mean? As Phil Spencer has said, it's in the rearview mirror, just a bit like Forza. Oh yeah, look out for that. That's coming up very soon. The Motorsport Forza is coming up next year. I'm joined with James Wright now, who's going to be chatting to me a little bit about how you feel about the new Xbox kind of games coming out and things like that. Well, how do you feel about these Xbox first-party games?
It's been a long time coming,
Yeah.
put it that way. There's been far too big a gaps between their first-party releases. I know there's 5 coming out this year, but you look at those 5 and they're still quite lacking.
Yeah.
5 paints a very different picture if you actually look at it in isolation. One of the big releases has been in early access for a while, which is Grounded.
Yes.
That's been around for quite a while as it is. The other big-ish release in terms of new releases for Xbox Game Studios is Penitent, I think, which looks amazing. But again, if those small indie titles are effectively your big releases for a year, it's not been a great year.
No, it's not. I think you've got to keep up as well, haven't you? You've got to keep up with the good feels as well. And I think 2023 is going to look like a good year. But I mean, do you think the COVID pandemic did have a big kind of knock on that being created?
Yes, I think most studios, for most publishers, have had some sort of impact from COVID, and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That said, I think the issues for Xbox go back way before COVID. You look at the studios they announced that they purchased in 2018, such as Ninja Games, Playground, Obsidian. They even started a new studio in the Initiative. Since that 4 or 5 years since that point, they've only released, I think, one of those studios has released a new game, and that's Playground, and it was a Forza, which has been around for a while and has been doing the business. So you look at some of the studios they've got, and they've not been producing, and there's a variety of reasons for that. So yeah, they need to start putting out some new first-party titles, because there's only so much their kind of mainstays like Halo and Gears of War can really do.
Definitely. And do you think there's a little bit of pressure from obviously other platforms as well? Like, you know, you've also got PC and you've got PlayStation. Do you think that adds the extra pressure as well to get some new titles out?
It certainly doesn't help that their biggest competitor in PlayStation are consistently putting out big first-party games that are both being commercially well received but critically well received. You look at this year and even before that, but you've had Horizon, you've got God of War coming out in a couple of weeks. Looking to next year, you've already got signs that Spider-Man's going to be coming out again. Even further than that, you know that they've got Wolverine, and there's so many other games that have both been released first party or are still coming up, where you can actually see a path for how, like if I'm buying a PlayStation, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
I couldn't say the same about Xbox. And it might be that those games that those studios Xbox have got are coming, but you honestly couldn't say when.
I think that's it. I think that's what Phil Spencer is trying to kind of gauge. I think there has been like a call out for the community to know when are we getting a new game, when are we getting some new stuff. And I think, you know, it kind of is good in a way because it kind of pricks people's anticipation, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, and I think ultimately having better first party releases will also help Game Pass. Game Pass is a lifesaver and is undoubtedly the best thing about owning an Xbox. But there's only so much those third-party releases can help Game Pass. They need a few more, like I said, a few more of their first-party releases to be on Xbox Game Pass to really be making the difference. And you look at, like say, the last year, or kind of the kind of games they have released that have come from their own first-party slate to try and help Game Pass, like Halo Infinite. Yeah, it was fantastic at release, but it's tailed off massively, and there's no obvious next game that's coming to Game Pass that's really going to help lift it back up again.
Yeah.
Again, you can kind of understand the logic from Sony when they're saying we don't want to put our first party games on kind of our equivalent Game Pass subscription, because they're putting them out and they're consistently shifting big numbers. you can't say the same about Xbox, but they haven't even got the titles to release in the first place.
Well, that's exactly it. And it's actually interesting you mentioned Game Pass, because we did speak yesterday how they're looking to put the Game Pass subscription price up, as everything is going up in Netflix and Disney Plus and all these subscription services. Do you feel like that's going to have a big impact on people wanting to get involved with Game Pass?
Not necessarily. Like, it will have some sort of tangible knock-on impact. Like, Game Pass is still fantastic value. If you're the person that wants to play all those third-party releases on day and date of release, it is a bit of a no-brainer if you can pay what little Game Pass costs and get those games, as opposed to on a rival console or on anywhere else where you're going to have to pay full whack for those games. The big thing is that Game Pass is lacking those exclusives. That is the problem. It's not that Game Pass has got a problem with games that are on there, because they've got tons of them coming out every month from third parties, but that's also costing Xbox, and they've not got enough of their own first party lineup. Not just old first party lineup, but new first party games that are helping lift up the value of Game Pass. So if it does increase in price, yeah, it's still good value, but it would not feel quite so bad if they had consistent new games coming out, in the same way that if Disney Plus were to put up their prices, it would be annoying, but because they're consistently putting out new shows for Marvel fans, Star Wars fans, all those things, you can kind of take it a little bit more, because you know you're still getting good stuff from them. Xbox can't say the same.
No, definitely. I think that's it. I think it's kind of going with the times a little bit there, which I think is good. But I mean, so basically what you're saying is there needs to be more, first party games going on the Xbox Pass, Game Pass.
Yeah, output needs to increase dramatically for Xbox game studios, and you can understand entirely why they're trying to buy someone like Activision, because at least Activision can get a consistent game released every single year. Whether the rights and wrongs of that in terms of Call of Duty and other games from Blizzard, you can debate that as much as you want, but the one thing you can't deny is that Activision Blizzard are consistently putting out new games, and if they were to get Activision Blizzard in, that at least helps their cause a lot more. Quite whether or not they're allowed to do that, and regulators and what they'll say, is a different thing entirely. Well,
James, actually, it's nice you've said that, because that leads into the next story really well, because Microsoft obviously promised to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, because they have got that ongoing deal together. So they've actually made a statement, and Phil has actually said that we're not taking Call of Duty from PlayStation. That's not our intent. Spencer said that our intent is not to do that as long as there's a PlayStation out there to ship it to. So although this Activision Blizzard Xbox is coming together, it's also making sure that it is going to be on PlayStation. And how do you feel about that move? How do you feel about the Xbox Activision combination?
I think realistically, it would be very, very difficult for them to take titles like Call of Duty, which have got such a massive audience on these other platforms, and move them away. Definitely. There's already been such massive backlash in terms of just future titles. Like, you look at your next Elden Ring, like Skyrim games and things like that, and even Starfield. The amount of uproar there's been that those are no longer going to be on PlayStation. I think if you were to do that across such a massive title as Call of Duty, it makes an even bigger impact. I think more likely you'll see those releases sort of closer to what they've done with Minecraft, where it is their game but they are publishing them on other platforms. Maybe they get slightly better deals or content on the Xbox platform, but they will still exist on PlayStation. I think what PlayStation are clearly wanting to see is how much difference there'll be to the current structure, because like I said, it is a different caliber of game. It is up there with one of the best released games every year consistently. It's not the same as if you were to remove Starfield from PlayStation, which is a big loss, but it is not a Call of Duty sized loss. No.
I mean, as well, actually Modern Warfare has done a lot better than it did for Vanguard earlier this year. And I think Modern Warfare people were a big fan. I think they loved Modern Warfare, which is great. But the Vanguard games, did you ever get your chance to play Call of Duty Vanguard?
I did, but I think there's more affinity from players with more modern settings. And I think that's just across the board.
Yeah.
You look at something like Battlefield, and again, that struggled to replicate the success that they had from their titles a few years ago because they've gone down different routes.
Absolutely.
I think there's something about modern era games that just seem to hit differently when it comes to first-person shooters.
Absolutely, I agree with you, James. And there's been its fair share of problems as well in Modern Warfare 2. There's been a few more little bugs that have come to light since this weekend. So players have had weapon attachment issues. They've been being disabled after a few times. So players can equip up to 5 attachments on their weapons at any time, but it appears that all 5 attachments have been tuned it's been causing a lot of crashes. So as soon as you get 5 attachments, it's not a great bug. So over the weekend, there's been a lot more and some glitch, and a lot of people have been having a few glitches. James, what do you think about these glitches? Do you think it puts you off from playing, or are you... I mean, it's what you get with a new game, right?
Not all. I think it is to be expected with every Call of Duty. It is such a big game. They frantically turn it around every year, which is to their credit. Under probably quite stressful circumstances. It makes sense that when these games are launching, yes, it would be fantastic if they launch completely bug-free, but there's always going to be little niggles in those opening weeks. And I'm sure within a week or two, a lot of these will be fixed, a lot of people will be forgetting about them, and all the attention and anger from fans will probably turn more towards weapon tuning and this game or this particular weapon is not doing well enough, or this one needs to be buffed or nerfed. It will be forgotten about as soon as it's quickly sprung up.
That's it. People might be having more rage quits though. They might be getting in the game too much. They might be raging about.